This meeting is being live streamed. Got it.
Got it.
Okay, I'm going to get this. Setting up your meeting, directing. Meeting is being live streamed. Got it. Okay, let's see. Get this. Setting up your meeting, directing. All right. Tiffany, how are you?
I'm good.
Let me introduce you to everyone. I'm so excited that you're here today. This is going to be great. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us live. This is an episode of Conversations with Creative Minds. And oh my gosh, we have a very creative mind with us today. We have Tiffany Harelik. And if you're a subscriber to Astrologic Magazine, then you read her astrology insights and predictions every month. But also on top of her being an astrologer, she's a psychic medium, and she does remote viewing, and she's a numerologist. So I am thrilled to be able to talk to her today and to take your questions live. She's going to be giving us insight into how to tap into your own psychic mediumship abilities to contact your loved ones. She's going to give us insights about everything that I just mentioned, astrology and mediumship and remote viewing and a couple of other things as well. So it's a very exciting day for us to have you here. So hi, Tiffany, and would you like to give us some insight? Let's, I guess, start at the beginning. How did you come to be involved with all these fabulous metaphysical practices?
Well, sure, absolutely. You know, the metaphysical side of my life started very early, around age 3. It's very common, I think, for psychics to have that age for some reason. But mine started on Halloween, about a week before I was 3 years old. And I remember it because we had just moved into a new house, and we had just set my bed up, and my bed crashed. And I told my parents that it was ghosts. And it was, you know, and for that, my entire childhood, I was just petrified because, you know, every night, what I came to understand later, right? But every night there's this sense of anxiety, this sense of like this rolling, like, you know, that feeling you get when you're supposed to talk in a group, but you don't want to. And like something's just kind of pushing you forward, right? It would be like kind of the 9 of Swords feeling in Tarot. It's like that, something's bothering me. I don't know what it is. And so the mind translates that into fear. So as a kid, I was really afraid of the ghosts. You know, they weren't like, it wasn't like I had grandparents stopping by in spirit comforting me or anything. It was just very intimidating. But later in life, I understood that sense of anxiety completely different. It was almost like the goosebumps, the messages from spirit were absolutely nothing to be afraid of. But I had to really train myself, and I had to work with people, you know, stick with the winners type of mentality that could help refine that gift. So I wanted to be taken seriously. So I have a master's degree in health psychology. I'm, you know, educated, right? I'm not just over here in the woo-woo world. But at some point, one of my astrology colleagues asked me to start writing the astrology column at her company. And so I accepted. And then she later asked me if I wanted to purchase the company, and I accepted. And from astrology, I branched out because astrology is the base for kind of the information flow of the month. And then I started branching out, and I started offering my psychic readings, my mediumship readings, and people liked them. So, you know, we have all of these different facets of the company. And because I, along the way, started writing books and producing books and all of the metaphysical topics, I started Spellbound Publishers too, so that our intuitives, our readers, our colleagues had an outlet for metaphysical publishing. So that's kind of a brief way of explaining how I got where I am today.
Well, so you're very busy and you have, as I would say, lots of plates spinning at the same
Mhm.
time. I know what you mean by that. I have a lot of plates spinning too. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's fun. It's fun. But it's, we're busy. So, let's talk about, since your psychic abilities came to you first. How did you begin? You said that you just kind of got comfortable with it, but how did you work from that point into incorporating into helping other people? How did that come about?
I would say there's a couple different ways. When I was 14, I had a near-death experience. I was in a car wreck. It was really awful. And when I was out of my body during that process, like the whole bird's eye view of the situation, I could also look up and start to see the angelic realm. And so there was this connection with spirit that was different than when I was in my physical body, right? But at this point, I'm 14. We live out in the country. There's not really people talking about this. It's pretty mainstream today to be talking about this, but several years ago, it was not. And so I didn't know what kind of experience that was. So I kind of kept that near-death experience and my ability to see the angels at the other side, our spirit body, our spirit collective body, to myself. And so it wasn't until like in my late 20s, early 30s that I started to have connections with people that had similar experiences that were a little further up the road than I was, and would be able to say like, hey, why don't you try this class? Why don't you try this one? I see you're really gifted in this area. And so what happened when you're saying like, where did it switch from wanting to help people? That's really the only motivation that I would deem ethical in doing psychic mediumship work, right? There has to be a huge amount of ethics, a huge amount of integrity. And my intention is always to work with healing both sides. And so whenever I'm doing a session, I'm checking in before and after and during with spirit and trying to be of service, and I'm trying to do a good job, and I'm trying to I'm checking in afterwards. How could I have done it better? Did I miss anything? Like, what do I need to learn from this? And so I'm honored and humbled to do a session because it's always in the name of providing somebody comfort through a grieving process, healing on kind of both sides of the fence type of a thing. So there's really no other motivation for doing it than a healing or evolution or growth potential, really. I don't do magic tricks, right? Like I don't go to the parties just for all the skeptics out there. And I think it's great to be skeptical because it means that you're curious and you're seeking and you are looking for answers. And that is what psychic mediumship can do, is provide answers, healing, closure, clarity to life's mysteries. So I think we were all born psychic. We were all born wise. We have these senses that extend out into the physical, right, into the metaphysical, into the spiritual realm. And so some of us are more clairvoyant. Some of us have the ability to taste or smell or hear words in the spirit realm, like especially right when you wake up or you're falling asleep. Sometimes you'll hear that wind chimey celestial music, or sometimes you'll wake up and smell like smoke or something, something different, or like coffee and nobody's in there making coffee. These are these little whispers or hints or signs from spirit. I got off on a tangent, sorry.
No. And I was going to say, I have had that coffee experience a couple of times. And I've also had tobacco 2 different times, and I don't smoke. I've never smoked. And I wasn't in an environment where anyone was smoking. I was actually in my car one time, and suddenly it smelled like someone was sitting next to me smoking. And I remember saying, okay, who's here with me? Because it was just like it was right under my nose. And then I had that happen in my kitchen once. And so I am still not sure who it was, but I definitely smelled it, and it was there for a few minutes, and then it just kind of dissipated.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So coffee, cigarettes or cigars, and flowers or perfume are the 3 most common that I hear people reporting about. And I usually hear them first thing in the morning. So it's very interesting that you could pick up on it in the middle of the day, right? Like that's some good psychic detective work over there.
Well, and as you know, I mean, I read tarot and interpret dreams, and so there is a great deal of what you're talking about in terms of me being able to tune into my own natural abilities, and you and I are very much alike in that whole ethical realm of making sure that when I read tarot for someone, when I am helping someone analyze their dreams, that it's all for the highest good and to help them. And I feel like, and you probably feel the same way, that it's part of the contribution that I make in terms of what I'm recognizing to be an ability, that I can read my own cards, although I don't like to read my own cards. You know, that's so subjective for me. But I mean, I look at the ability, I have that ability to do that. And I feel like I need to do that, to share it. And the same with interpreting dreams. And it sounds like that's where you're going with all of the abilities that you're working with.
Absolutely. You know, it's working for the highest good. It's working for both sides, the spirit people, the physical people. It's working for evolution of our own consciousness, and it's a return to love, right? And so we're all walking each other home, and this interesting connection to the afterlife can be very healing and connecting. And there are moments, whether it's like, oh my gosh, I could tell you these 4 dates in astrology, and you're like, wow, how did you know that? You know, it's not really psychic work, but it is a connection to spirit that gives somebody an aha moment or an awakening, that this is how we connect the cosmic dots, or they all start to work together. And it works in somebody that is ripe for a change, right? Or that is ripe for healing. So there are moments in life that it feels really good to start studying astrology or numerology. And there's moments in life where that doesn't matter, and you just want to have a connection with a loved one. You know, and so I think they all work together for our collective healing and that return to love.
Yes, and love is the ultimate power, superpower of the universe. I'm with you 100% there. Yeah, recognizing it is a big thing, and I felt fortunate that I recognized it for a long time, even though I hid mine because of my upbringing, just to be really blunt about it. And it was only after I had first another psychic medium, when years and years ago, I was in my early 20s, and she told me that I could do what she did. And she said, but really your gift is with tarot. And I did not pursue that because I was in television at that point, writing and producing TV. And, you know, that was my focus at that point in my life. But then about 3 or 4 years later, I'm not teasing about this, I had a voodoo priestess in New Orleans tell me that this was also my ability. And at that point I thought, you know, I can't really ignore this anymore. And I really embraced it. And I knew even before both of those people told me that I could do this, but I had that hesitancy, right? And so I wanted to ask you, because a lot of people who are watching now, as you and I were talking before we went live, everybody has an ability, and some of us recognize it, some of us have come to recognize it, but how would you go about helping someone who maybe hasn't recognized their ability yet, and especially with your the psychic abilities that you're talking about, the mediumship, and, you know, overcoming the fear or embracing who they really are, what their natural talent is here.
Yes. So I would say, you know, it's kind of like anybody can play football, anybody can play the piano, but there are certain people that are going to excel in it. And those people practice, you know, they practice. And so you have to have an inclination for it. In some ways, we all have a calling, and there are moments when you hear that, but you don't hear it if you're not meditating. If you're just like 9 to 5, working, eating all the things, like, blah, 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 like if you're just living this kind of lifestyle where you're not connecting in prayer, meditation, whatever form that is for you, you can miss those whispers, right? If you're not looking for the signs and symbols. But if you know, right, like if you're like, oh, wait, I am psychic, there's a little witchy woo in me, or there's a little connection, or I'm seeing the symbols and I want to know more and I don't know where to start, I would say the first thing is cleaning up the physical body, because the physical body, it's almost impossible to connect if we are clogged up, blocked up in a healing trauma, in a crisis, in an emotional train wreck. You know what I mean? And so we have to choose our own spiritual health and spiritual fitness before anything. So the way that I do that is through yoga and meditation. I have my own practices. I'm disciplined in that I go about them every day, but maybe I do them in a different order, so a good base place to start would be with your physical health, right? Making sure you're sleeping, having enough water, nutrients, your diet is fairly clean, right? And that if you have emotional issues going on, we all do, life happens, that you're actively taking care of them. That doesn't mean stuffing them down, right? You want to grieve, be angry. Like sometimes it takes years in a process, but it's not the ideal time to start trying to work on your psychic career if you're in trauma mode, right? So once that's like stabilized in some way and you're starting to meditate more, right? For me, I'm using the word meditate. All I mean is sitting still, listening and connecting with your higher power, your spirit, your collective, however you want to call it, right? And so for me, that does have to be disciplined. I do need to do it every day. And I have to train my mind. So all psychic work, the base foundation is going to be mental clarity and mind training. So if I'm sitting for meditation, some of the tools that I use, like I named my mind Mindy because it's mind with a Y. So one of the tricks, right, is that you can name your mind so that when you're sitting for meditation, you can just chat with her and say, thanks, Mindy. I don't need that thought. The mind wants to categorize. It wants to put something in a bucket. And so when you sit for meditation and you remember that you have a grocery list and some things to do and you don't have time to be sitting here, you just say, thanks, Mindy, that's in the future. And then you sit there and you're like, wait a minute, I am really mad about that thing. And you say, thanks, Mindy, that's in the past. And over and over and over, you're cleansing your mind and you're separating who you think you are from your thoughts, right? And so this is a big, huge part of psychic development. Once you can do that, you can sit there calmly and just listen. You can use the mind, what's the right word? Like, I don't want to say correctly, but in your favor to protect the aura. So sometimes people are scared of their psychic abilities because they don't want to be contacted by paranormal. They don't want to be contacted at night. They don't want to be in the mix of something that they might not know, right? So you can use the mind to protect the body and the aura by visualizing a glass cube around you, all the way around you, over your head, under your feet, everything. In this glass cube, you just set up the intention that nothing can get in and only my energy can expand, right? And so that is another, I guess, place to start when you're on the new side of your psychic development journey. And then after that, right, then you start practicing, just like going to the gym. You have to get the reps in. You want to practice with people that know that you're a student, that are going to give you grace and flexibility, that don't have pressure on you. And you're going to practice, you're going to start to realize which is your gift. Are you clairvoyant? My strongest, I guess, psychic asset would be clairvoyance. So I see things visually, but I don't see them like the movie Ghost, right? It's not like that for me. It's like I'm having a memory of a movie and I can start to see it visually come up on screen. And as I give you information and you validate it, it gets brighter and brighter and I can see it more. So I think as a psychic, it's important to train in all of the clairs. I think as a medium, it's important to train under somebody's wing so that you're not just out there kind of winging it by yourself. But those are, I guess, some basic building blocks when you're just starting out. Does that answer your question?
Oh, and more. You really gave me, and here's something that, first of all, naming your mindy, that may have just become something that I have adopted instantly, because I love that thought of creating that separate entity so that you can say not now mindy, because I have monkey mind really badly, and I go into isolation tanks to float, and that has helped me. But I really love the idea of putting a name to my mind. And something else I wanted to mention or say that you brought up is everybody, no one has to do exactly the same thing in order to bring their abilities into the light, into focus. You can address it in whatever way feels right to you, whatever intuitively feels like is getting that, opening up that channel for you. And then thirdly, there was that whole aspect that you mentioned of, once you open the channel, are you able to regulate? And it sounds like, you learned right away how to regulate anything coming in, like at night or when you didn't want it, or anything that might not be just complete beneficial, love energy of helping, right? And so how do you deal with that? How did you make that? And is that part of the cube that you were talking about?
I think there's a lot of different ways to answer that. I guess the way that I would say is that you want to have a connection with your guides, with your God, who are you working with in spirit? And like I have one that I just set up that is very martial arts energy that I feel very protected by. I have kind of a deal with spirit to please don't scare me. I don't want any sounds at night, And so I know if I get a sound at night, it's nothing malevolent. It's something that's trying to get my attention for a reason. For if you're walking the path of being a medium, right? You are being of service. That doesn't mean you have to be on all the time, 24/7. You can say, I need to sleep a full night of sleep. I'll be back on at 6 a.m., whatever. You can do little visual things like flip the switch, like the doctor's in, the doctor's out, on, off. And you can just visualize like open, close on the top of your head, or you can visualize the light turning on and the light turning off, right? Just like that psychic neon sign. You can be as creative as you want. And then you just start to get consistent with it, and it builds up over time. And when you start to work with your guides, you never feel lonely. You never feel like you're giving wrong information. You just feel like you're communicating the best you can with an incredible intelligence, right? That doesn't have a mouthpiece. You're communicating in a very mystical way. So, in order to not be scared, right? Like I get calls for paranormal activity. I'm going to let you guys in on a secret, okay? I get calls for paranormal activity. I am not a ghost hunter. I have good, dear friends and colleagues who are. I have trained with the best of the best. But when I get calls for paranormal activity, I know for sure that it's somebody's loved one that's trying to get a message across. And so there's two forms of mediumship, right? There's physical mediumship and mental mediumship. And so when somebody's having the physical experience, the books falling off of the shelf, the tortillas are flying off of the shelf. I got called to a restaurant one time for that. Something like the pictures dropping, or there's an experience of like the cold air when you get to a certain part. There's a physical experience happening. I know for me in my practice and my deal with spirit, that there's a loved one that has a message to convey, or a connection, or there's a moment of healing. But just like you're setting up some healthy boundaries with spirit, if you don't have healthy boundaries in your life, it's going to kind of play out the same way. So just getting yourself healthy, staying on your spiritual fitness path, whatever that looks like for you, it will play out similarly in the psychic world. I will say it's totally inappropriate to go up and try to read somebody in the public. And so if you're out in the world and you get a psychic hit for somebody and it's your friend and you're practicing it out, it can be kind of fun, that witchy woo feeling, right? But there are very, very few amount of times, I can probably count them on one hand, that I have been in public and felt like you need to, like spirit saying you need to say something to this person. So I also have, I have to respect that. I don't just walk around open all the time. It's a conscious choice not to. I would be drained of energy. I would not feel well, right? Like, so I just work when my office hours are with spirit, right?
Yeah, office hours of spirit. Well, and so speaking of which, so we have people who are already asking if you are connecting. And I know you mentioned right before we went live that you felt like somebody was already coming through. And do you want to talk about how you would do a reading in the way that we're doing this live chat right now?
Sure. So guys, this is kind of an experiment. I can't see you. I can't see your comments. And so I thought with Victoria, if you were writing some questions, she could relay them to me and I could do my best to connect and give you some magical synchronistic type messages. Normally, if I'm doing a demonstration of mediumship, it would be either in person or it would be on a Zoom so that I can see your faces and connect in with you. But right now it would kind of be like walking into a movie theater. I can't see you. I don't know what's connecting with what, right? So I think that if we keep it pretty much just some straightforward questions with some simple advice back, then of course, take what you want, take what resonates. You were born wise. I can teach you how to access that information for yourself. And so just depending on what the questions are, I'll answer it so that you feel seen and heard by the unseen world, but I'll also try to weave in some kind of lesson on how you could access that information yourself.
Okay, you guys, so ask your questions for the unseen world, and let's see how this is going to work, because everything is energy, right? We know that, but let's see, as far as Tiffany connecting right now with each of you who've said that you would like to have a little mini reading. Give us some questions that you would like specifically to know from the unseen world that Tiffany might be able to tune into. And while we're talking about that, developing your own, you said that you can share ways that people can tap into their own psychic abilities. What are some of the tips that you could share about that?
Sure. So some of the exercises would be like, okay, the reverse blink is one of my favorite ones. So I talk about this one a lot. So forgive me if you've seen it in the articles already. But basically what you want to do is imprint something on your mind quickly and then try to recall it. You could get the same result if you were doing a dream journal, but I know sometimes people get frustrated when they can't recall their dreams. And so this is another way to have a similar result. And so what do you do? A reverse blink, you just close your eyes and you open quickly and then you close them again. And then you start to rehearse what you saw in that moment. Okay. And this is so important because your ability to see something like that quickly, that's kind of how the clairvoyant flashes come through, right? And so I got like a room full of information, but what am I going to remember? Am I going to remember the flowers and the crystals and the books and the plants and the lights and the cards and or am I just going to remember that I saw myself quickly and I missed a sea of valid information that could have helped me in that reading? Another thing that I teach is connecting with colors. And I used to hate this class. Like when I was a baby psychic, I was like, I do not need to know about the chakras. I do not need to know about the colors. And then Spirit gave me a case of 2 about why you do need colors and how important they are. And so anytime we're talking about this, I like for people to start working with colors in a way that you can just journal through, like know what color is associated with each chakra, know a feeling tone for each color that you start to see. I had an aunt when I was very young tell me before I went to sleep to journal what color I was feeling and what that feeling was. And I don't know what hippie class she was taking or was into, but she told me that and it worked. And it's something that really helped me at a young age to connect with colors. And so I want to give you these 2 examples of why color is so important. The first one, I was working on a cold case. It's a cold case that Sylvia Brown worked on. It's a cold case that is 30 years old. And it was like chance in a lifetime at that moment of my career. And so I was working with the mother of the missing person. I was working with law enforcement and with an author who had written about the case. And I was connecting in, and I was able to tell them that there were two different law enforcement groups working, and that one was corrupt, right? So these are things that you don't want to do right out the bat. You don't want to try to call out the bad guys when they might be the guys that you're talking to. But I just told them, I can see that there's two different agencies involved, and there's one that has better information, I think is how I relayed that, right? And they said, okay, what color is their uniform? What color is their car? And I said, it's blue. Okay. And they said, well, they're both blue. Okay. So I needed to discern navy blue from like royal blue or baby blue or whatever the other color was. And if I hadn't practiced picking up colors psychically or connecting to them in a way that, through auric field or whatever you want to do, right? Through crystals, like whatever. The idea is that I had a sense that there were two different blues, and I was able to identify what we were talking about by, you can't just go with blue, right? It's like a shade of blue. There's a feeling to it, and you can spirit will work with you in that way. The second example I have of that is in colors in flames, right? In arson, in fire, in crime, rubber burns a different color than wood, right? So knowing the flame, like if you just describe a flame, that's useful. But if you want a next level, right, you would say it was a white flame, or it was an orange flame, or you would involve color into your readings. So those are a couple of examples I like to give.
That is so fascinating, and something I'd never thought of in mediumship, psychic mediumship work. But I am now, again, thinking in terms of the shades and how they affect me. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have some good questions here for you.
Okay.
Let's see what we have. Do you want me to tell you the name of the person, their name that's coming up on the chat?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Yeah, just to see if that helps you. So let's do Dana first.
Okay.
She asks, why do I see the number 808 all the time?
That's trippy to me because that is a number that's significant to my very best friend. It is a signature number for like the first three numbers in the Hawaii phone system. So that's trippy to me. Now, 808, right? Like you could think about this a lot of different ways. Do you have a personal connection to 808 like she does? She used to live in Hawaii. It's significant to her. It makes her think of something, right? So 808 to you might be very different than 808 to me, right? Because I would just say Hawaii. But without knowing more about you, I could also say, let's look at the numbers. The eights are the figure eights. Those are the infinity symbols, right? The infinity symbols remind us as above, so below. They remind us of the strength card in Tarot, where there's a situation that requires inner strength and perseverance and being calm and waiting as long as you can possibly wait. So wait on what? Wait on spirit. There's a 0 in the middle there. There's 8. The infinity symbol is on the magician card. So have you forgotten to be your own alchemist? Have you forgotten that as you think, so shall you be? Notice your thoughts. The moment you see 808, what are you thinking of? What's going on in the background? Is there can you start to notice a pattern when you see that number over and over again? For sure, it's a sign and symbol. If you see it over and over again, there's something is trying to get your attention, and good job because you're paying attention. And so now you're just going to use your psychic muscles a little bit, right? And so when you're doing your first push-up, you might need to be on your knees for a little bit, but eventually you'll get to that 10th push-up, right? And so the same way with your 808, the first time you see it, you're like, well, I don't know what I was thinking about. It's sunny outside. I don't know. I don't feel like meditating. Or maybe you notice that every time you see 808, there's a certain song on, or there's a certain memory that occurs to you. So is Dana giving us any feedback on any of that?
I haven't seen any feedback from Dana, but all of those are excellent suggestions. Should we move to the next, or do you want to stay connected with that?
Yeah, no, let's keep going.
Okay. So the next question we have is a little bit more broad. It's from Ed D.
Okay.
And he says, or he asks if Taiwan can keep its independence, the status quo, and be safe from any aggression. Do you have any?
If Taiwan can keep its independence.
Yeah, the status quo of where it is now as an independent country, and stay safe. Do you have any anything coming through on that?
Sure. Let me look, and let me also give a disclaimer that I stay politically neutral. I have no political opinions. It drives my family crazy, but I really just stay right here so that I'm not like taking sides at any level. When I look at Taiwan, I immediately think of the astrology of it. And I do think that there are some serious risks when in the global socioeconomic status of Taiwan, of Russia, of China, of the United States. And there's some dynamics that are playing out that are, I would say, unforeseeable, other than we know that things are coming to a pretty big head this year, I would say. So in December, I think we'll know more information, but I don't think that's a easy answer I could just give you. We could do a demonstration of the pendulum, right, guys? Like, you know, your pendulum. So I'm asking for a yes. I usually hold my hand right under it and it's going back and forth. And then when I ask for a no, it starts to go in a circle. You can see that. And so with regards to what we know today in the collective consciousness, is Taiwan able to maintain its independence? With the information that we have today, that's a yes. So
awesome.
It's likely to change depending on who asked the question and when. We could also cast a horary chart in astrology and use the chart of this moment that the question was asked to see how that plays out, right? With Mars and Gemini, that is a very divided, divisive situation. So Mars will retrograde later this year. Mercury is in its pre-shadow phase, about to retrograde into Libra and then into Virgo, where we have a new moon today. We didn't even talk about that yet. So there's lots of hope with a new moon. It starts a new 2.5-year cycle. And so if you are particularly concerned, I would start to just bless the country. You know, you can send out little heart beams. You can like Care Bear stare at them. You can do, you know, whatever visualization you want to love and bless the energy. I hope that's helpful. I know it's not as maybe direct as you wanted.
Well, I thought it was great. And your pendulum certainly gave a very direct answer. Now, not to switch back to Dana, but I just realized she had 2 questions here. Sure. And let's see, she did respond to you. She's thanked you for your advice, and she says she's going to work on it. So Dana would also, since you've connected to her energy already, would love to know if her father, who passed away when she was very young, ever tries to reach out to her.
Okay, so I'm glad that we got to this point, because at the top it says Victoria B pre-show notes, and then it says father figure. And so I knew somebody was going to come through, but I wasn't quite sure how this would work even. So Dana, if you're still with us, the father figure that came through just before the show may or may not be connected to you, but the man that came through as a father figure really showed me mountains, and even possibly either a mountaineering accident, a love for mountaineering. Being in the mountains was very important. It could be that you were even in the mountains. And he also showed me that a goodbye was not possible. And so if you can validate that for me, then I will continue. And if it's not connected, then we'll continue with the experiment here.
That is really specific and so cool. Dana hasn't responded just yet, but I know that, as I mentioned earlier, you told me someone had come through, but you didn't mention to me who it was or anything about it. But you said that someone had already been trying to come through. And that's how spirit works, right? Is that they understand the whole concept of time and space, which is something that I kind of wrestle with always, because I understand that that is a construct that we as intelligent humans created to measure. but energy spirit doesn't really need that. I mean, they don't work with that at all. So the thought that if this was Dana's father coming through, and before we went live and before Dana asked the question, I mean, the whole time and space thing is just not relevant, is it?
Well, it's funny. It's like if spirit wants to reach you, sometimes they like me, right? Like I have a reputation on the other side, and some of them they don't, right? Like they're going to pick another medium to attract into your world. So I feel like when we do these events or these group gatherings, there's already a magnet, there's already an attraction in place, there's an intelligence greater than we could ever imagine, than we could ever understand, that is working behind the scenes benevolently to connect us. And so when I sit for a session, a lot of mediums will say, okay, that taking notes ahead of time is like cheating, or it's like not right. For me, it's helping me kind of sort my thoughts out, and seeing what I see. And I like it because whenever it sorts out, I'm able to send the client a picture of my notes and say, this is what I saw ahead of time, right? And so, and it ends up being very validating and, a way of connecting.
Okay, Dana, I have to tell you, I mean, Tiffany, I have to tell you, Dana has gotten back to us.
Okay.
She says, I live in the mountains and never got to say goodbye to her father because he passed away very suddenly. So,
I mean, I still get chill bumps, guys, like that. There's no way, I can't even see the YouTube chat. I'm on Zoom with Victoria. There's no way I could have known. But when I did sit, because I do take this work very seriously and I take it as service work, and I sit quietly ahead of time. This is not like the Tiffany show. This is the spirit show, right? Like this is incredible intelligence that I'm able to hear based on my practicing the psychic development. So Dana, my heart is with you. And I understand that you live in the mountains and that there wasn't a goodbye available at the time. Please take this as a big hello from heaven, that your dad absolutely is with you. Absolutely. And he's showing me like a radio dial. So I don't know if there's a certain song that has been reminding you of him lately, or if there's a connection to music there. But my interpretation is going to be that it's like you could connect with him. You just have to turn your frequency just a little bit, and he's right there with you. Would you say that you guys had a song or a connection to music that would be significant for you? It could be something that even happened recently. But I know that he's almost giving me the feeling of a relief. It's like, I've been trying to connect with her. And now it's like, oh, like she can hear me. And yeah, it's like a relieving feeling. And so just take this as a big hug from heaven, that absolutely your dad is still with you in spirit and absolutely will continue to see you through your important life events. I think that they're showing me that you're worried about him not being able to be there for an important signature event, is how it comes to me. I don't know if it's like a anniversary, birthday, something big event, quinceañera type, like something special, right? But that you've been worried that he's been missing out, or that he hasn't been able to be there. And it's really robbed you of your joy, of your ability to enjoy life. Because you feel like, it's almost like you feel like you're stuck in that time when he passed. And he just wants you to know just to keep living, because he is with you, and he will be at that important event, graduation. I'm not sure exactly what it is. It's something, a signature event is what it's coming through as. So please carry that with you, that he will be with you throughout life, that he wants you to return to an ability to look forward to life, and to be able to enjoy your life, really.
Wow. Okay. Well, now we have several more questions. Do you feel like switching energies?
Sure.
So the next question that has come up here, also about a loved one who's passed. This is from Esther Farrell. And so she gives us her first and last name. And she says, and he asks, are there any messages from her ex-husband who passed away?
Okay.
Esther, Ester. Ferrell, if that helps any.
It does help, yeah. So when that question is asked, I get a first name that's one syllable. So like one syllable. I'm going to say Tom, Ed, John, Bill. It's like one syllable first name. So if that's accurate, and then he's also showing me a motorcycle, and so I would feel like he could acknowledge something to do with a motorcycle, and if that makes sense, then we can do a little bit more, and if it doesn't make sense, we'll let it go and try again.
Oh, okay. And so, Esther, if you are able to respond, then let us know if that is resonating with you. So we have lots of questions here now, and I don't know if we should just stay with this one energy. I don't want to get just too confused.
I don't want to do two mediumships at the same time, but if they're like, we'll keep Esther's ex-husband energy with us, but if there's some like psychic development question, we could handle that.
Oh, okay. And so, well, and Dana is responding just as we'll call it just an epilogue here, right? Since you were so on target with her, she says, and I quote, "Just amazing. He was a big Kenny Rogers fan." You were asking about music and tuning into the radio dial. And that always reminds me of him. We'll be celebrating my mom's 70th birthday next month, and sounds like he'll be there with us. Thank you so much.
It makes me cry. I mean, that's incredible. You know?
I know. Okay, well, let's go back to Esther because she's now responded.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. She says he loved his Harley Davidson.
What?
I know, right? I know. I love doing this. We need to do this on a regular basis. I think this is turning out so well. We didn't know how this was going to go, you guys.
Yeah.
Watching, but oh my gosh, Tiffany, you're tuning right in here. This is so cool.
And it's just spirit. Like, I just want to affirm that this is consciousness, right? And so with Esther and his motorcycle, you know what, Esther, there's a sense of he's taking responsibility for his life, for his actions, and it comes with an apology. It comes with a sincere apology that he has a sense of humor about it. It's like, there's no way she would have believed me if I was in person. If I had apologized in person, it wouldn't have mattered. But because I'm coming through in spirit, I just want to offer the most sincerest apology and taking responsibility for the choices in my life. And so if you can take that, then that could be a huge moment of healing for you.
And I have to tell you this. So we have someone who's watching whose name is Ruby Singh 2, the number 2, me. And she said, this was going back a few minutes ago, and she responded, she said, I picked up on Sylvia Brown a few minutes before you mentioned her.
Nice, Ruby, look at you.
And I know she's tuned into you. And then she also said, when you were working with Esther's energy, she said that when you were saying it's a one syllable name, she said Tom is what she heard.
Whoa.
Yeah, so you guys are really in that same frequency at this point, and that is so cool. Okay, so let's see. We have a couple of other. I know, right? Let's see if we can. I don't want to switch you around too much, but you're doing such an amazing job. Let's see. Any messages? Okay, so this is Sheila and Buckingham, and it's a really, really interesting name spelling of Sheila. It's
Shelley.
Oh, is it Shelley? This sounds like someone you know.
Yes, yeah. This is a Wise Guys Collective member, friend, client. Hi, Shelley. Thanks for coming.
I am sorry I called you Sheila. But she's asking any messages from her father, mother, or first husband as she goes forward on her own.
Okay. So let me just tune in for a second. You know what is funny? So one of the biggest things that I teach in psychic development is to go with your gut, and it doesn't have to make sense. And so the first thing that came to mind was marbles. And so if you have a memory of marbles, if you have a joke about marbles, if marbles make any kind of sense to you, Shelley, then let's use that as a sign from spirit. And then I want to try to narrow it down, because I don't want to read 3 people at one time. All right. I want somebody to step forward first. And so that first energy, I do feel is another father figure. I do feel like this is like the father figure episode that we're doing here. But the father energy on your side, he comes, or the father figure that's coming through for you when you're asking is very like alchemical, like very quirky kind of scientist, thinner frame. I'm also seeing glasses, and I'm seeing somebody who's very studious. And so in terms of his own life, I feel like he's taking responsibility for being totally shut off and in his own world and his own cube. I don't know what to say, but like he's in his own world, and he's apologizing for that. So first of all, an apology that he walled himself off. I know that it was part of his personality, but it wasn't something that you could ever have understood. And so as a kid, you were kind of taught that either love, you can't access love, or it's pointless to give it because it would just be hit with a wall over and over again. Right. And so you said, do they have a message from you as you move forward on your own? The message that I'm getting today would be to not wall yourself off to love like I did. It makes me want to cry. So I feel like that's a genuine message. It's like, please don't wall yourself off. Please keep your big heart growing. I'm sorry that I couldn't be the kind of father figure that showed that to you. But I know that there's a message there that comes with an apology, and it comes, and if you can take the apology, that's the biggest thing in moving forward, right? If you can receive it and have a moment of tears with yourself, and to realize that your love that previously has been hitting walls after walls after walls, it's like the walls are gone, and you can access, your love can access and plug into other loving beings. And so that, I think, is the biggest message moving forward. Alone was the question, is don't wall off your love. Keep loving, in a way that only you can, that you weren't taught, is that helpful?
Let's see. We'll wait for Shelley's response. Nothing yet, but wow, that was very tuned in. So while we wait to see if she responds to that, so we're not switching energies, I do have a couple of general questions which have popped up. Let me see. How can you tell if you can trust the messages received from spirit, such as using the pendulum, automatic writing, etc.?
This is such a great question. And I'm making a note because I am absolutely going to do a blog post about this. How can you tell if the messages are from spirit or not? You have to learn to discern spirit versus yourself versus your soul versus Mindy, your mind, right? You have to be able to discern that. So I'm not just sitting here like clickety, like do, like I have spent my time, I've done my yoga, I've meditated, I have set my heart's intention, and I feel connected to my guides when I go to work. So there's some behind the scenes things going on for sure. But the training that comes with the reps, that comes with the practice, that comes with sitting in the psychic circles with your teachers and mentors, right? Those are the times when you start to learn that discernment. You're training your self-discernment when you're telling your mind, I don't need that future thought. I don't need that past thought. Thank you. And I'm just sitting there. When you think a thought that you wouldn't have thought, that's spirit. When you ask a question and it gets answered before you even finish forming the question, that's spirit, right? Like those. Now, I know that there's a lot of different beliefs and disciplines. And so is it good spirit? Is it bad spirit? I don't know that anyone can tell you. So I would say you have to go with your heart's calling, and you have to go with what feels clean. when I'm connecting with spirit, I never feel scared, bad, wrong, angry, guilty. If those kind of depressive, addictive feelings are coming up, that's not something that you want to connect with or connect into, right? Because in my world, the spirit is a loving, benevolent force. And so I'm going to be able to access that type of energy when I'm in connection. Is that helpful?
Oh, tremendously. Okay. And so just to wrap up those energies, because we have a couple of other, we'll see if you can tune into, but in case you need to have that little break between them. Esther thanks you. She says she's overwhelmed with messages and sends you 2 big red hearts.
Oh.
And then, yeah, and then Ms. Buckingham is saying, yes, my dad was a doctor, tall, skinny glasses with his bird legs, as he called it. He was quirky and had Asperger's. And my mom said, he loves you, but doesn't show it. And she says, thank you. I used to play with colorful marbles as a child. So you are knocking this out of the park. I am thrilled with what I mean, we didn't know if you could do this like this, and we're just, we're
winging it.
We're winging it, but wow. Okay. And so all right, and we had another question from Ed D, and it's Ed, ED, and then the letter D. He is saying, he's asking if, let's see, his cousin who passed away a few years ago, wondering if there are any messages coming through for him, from him, for him.
All right, so let me just connect in with Ed D and a cousin.
Ed D, like dog.
Okay. So again, the first symbol I'm getting on, if I'm honest, is a train. And so if there's a connection to a train, I would love for that to be the case, because I actually see a train. This could be a train trip that you went on together. This could be a form of passing. This could be a lot of different connections. I'm not feeling as strong, but what I do know is that this person that I have with me died much younger than should have, didn't get to live their full life. And it does feel like a very quick, either accident or I would put it in the category of accident. It was not meant to happen. And so it's very shocking. And this cousin, first of all, can we take that information before I go on?
Let's see if Ed is able to respond on that. And before we go, I don't want to switch energies with you. We have another general question. What might be holding me back from remembering and understanding messages that are coming through? Often I only remember things for a split second, or it's not enough information to make sense of. And this is from Lucy.
Okay, so what is holding her back, because she can only remember just a little bit at a time psychically? Is that what the question is?
Yes.
Okay. Let me just ask. Okay, I don't think you're going to love this answer, but I get the news. So I think either you're spending too much time watching the news, or I see a literal newspaper. So I feel like what's holding you back is too much information. Maybe you are asking too many people for opinions. Maybe you're reading too many books. Maybe you watch too much TV. Maybe you scroll on social media too much. But if I'm giving you a psychic answer for what's holding you back, it has to do with a massive amount of information that is not helpful to you. And it takes away from the time that you could have been connecting with spirit. So there's a little a sensation of, where did that hour go? And now I'm upset. It's not like, where did that hour go? dang, I'm like enlightened, And so that's my initial hit. And then in terms of how can you strengthen that stuff? It's really through psychic development practice. And I would love to just mention the Psychic Catalyst class we have coming up. Is that okay?
Yeah, yes, please.
Okay, so I have a free open house. Everybody's welcome. You do have to register. If you go to wiseskiescollective.com on the classes tab, about midway through the page, you'll see Psychic Catalyst, and I'm hosting these psychic development circles. The first one is totally free. It's August 30th at noon Central, and I'm going to be training on how to pick up when, like the timing of things, the month, the date, the season. And so I'll train on that, and then we'll actually practice. And it's very safe. It's all levels. It's mostly beginners. And you like, spirit is so present in the group format that you will wow yourself and surprise yourself. And so what's blocking you? Maybe a lack of practice. So I want to invite everybody to please come be my guest for the first one. There's 7 more that are, if you want to buy them as a bundle, it's $108. You save 30%, or you can just pop in whenever you want and they're $22. So please come practice with us if you feel like you've got that little nudge and that little gift and you're not quite clear on it. There's lots of great other teachers and healers. My teachers are incredible. There's books and YouTubes and all kinds of things that you can do, but there's just nothing that, I don't know, for me has replicated or made me stronger than sitting in practice circle. So what's blocking you? Too much information. What can you do about it? Practice.
I'm going to be there because that sounds fantastic. Okay, and to follow up with Ed, he says yes, that his female cousin did pass when she was really young. So I don't know if that energy is still tuned in. And I asked, was there a train involved? And he said that he doesn't know, that he's not sure about.
Well, I'm seeing this train, and I'm seeing it like long distance, and I'm seeing it like kind of this like windy mountain scene as the train. And so I'm just wondering if she was very far away from him, if there's like a long distance journey. But the idea here is that, again, there wasn't necessarily a goodbye that was able to take place, and that there was that it was shocking and sudden, and it does seem like there was another child after her. But for this one in particular, I feel like the main message is that I'm at peace. I am not upset, that I am in a safe place, and it's good here. It's kind here. It feels very peaceful where I am. And that is a very different experience of her time on Earth. And so just know that there is a supernatural healing that is taken place for her, and that she is in a place of peace. And so you can take that with you for sure.
Nothing's better than that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so this is kind of a general question, but Diane with 2 N's and then the letter M and then the date 2015 is asking for guidance in her work and financial life. Is that too broad?
Yeah, I mean, that's what people come for, money and love.
Right.
That's what we have questions about. Like, we want help. We need answers. We're not sure what to do. Otherwise, we'd be doing it, So Diane, the question was about, can you rephrase? Can you just say it one more time?
Yes, let me roll back up here. She is asking about guidance and, well, where is she? Guidance in my work and financial life.
Okay, work and financial life for Diane. Okay, so sometimes I'll just hold the cards and one will flash through to me. And I'm just doing this as a demonstration since we haven't played with these guys yet. But for Diane, what I'm sensing without drawing anything yet is this like very strict energy that is very like, I don't know, can't get creative, can't think outside of the box. And I don't know if it's you or if it's a boss or if it's somebody in your field. There's nothing wrong with this energy, but it's just, it has limited your fullest expression. The card that I drew was the High Priestess. It's reversed. I use the Golden Tarot deck mostly by Cat Black. It's my kind of home deck that I go to. It's well loved. But, you know, guys, you can read with any deck that appeals to you. For Diane, I would say, have you lost touch with something that, like maybe you had a desire to be a little bit more mystical, or a desire to be psychic, or a desire to have your own psychic business. And I just feel like you've lost touch with that a little bit because it came up as a reverse, and that you haven't been able to be as creative as you are. So that feeling of being stifled. And so I don't think that you can create from a place of being stifled. So in answer to your question, I would say, is there something that you could do for yourself to be a little bit more creative? And by that, I mean, you know, like I like to garden, I like to cook. Maybe you like to weave weavings or paint or do something, but I think that you've lost touch with that kind of inner child wonder, that joy, that connection to the mystical. Maybe you haven't been sitting, like I'm going to be the meditation Nazi today, right? Maybe you haven't been sitting for meditation and connecting, because I feel like you're just a little bit out of touch with your calling. You could look at your 10th house. You could look at your midheaven in the astrology. You could look at your north node in your astrology chart. You could get some clues and signals that way. Now, you asked about your finances too. And so the main thing we want to know is like, what you're doing now, is it going to be enough? Is it going to be satisfying? Do you kind of stick with what you're doing now? I got the instruction card. So no, I would say you need a change of pace. Like I feel like this, when I get the 5 of Cups, it's about, I've forgotten to look at the blessings. I've forgotten to be grateful for something. There's a grief to it, and I just can't really get out of my own way. And so I would say, I don't think you need to stick with what you're doing. I don't think you owe anybody an apology. I don't think you need to prove yourself to anybody. I think you need to unplug, get back into nature and spend some time connecting with yourself. You know, if you could write your wildest dream, could you even do that right now? You know, I mean, and maybe you can, and this would be a great day to do it because we're under the new moon energy still, right? A new 2.5-year cycle in Virgo, in 4 degrees of Virgo. So if you happen to know your chart, look there for some clues too. But I do sense that there's a big change for you, that there's a lot of grief around your work, and maybe you have been in grief work and you just you need some time to heal the healer, right? Overall, you know, I think that you've got to really look here. I cut the deck and I got the King of Swords. Overall, I think you just have to take charge of the situation instead of wondering. I think you need to be a little bit more assertive in asking for what you want clearly. Not like, I want to work 3 days for whatever, 60 grand and this or something better. I want you to be very specific and write it down and get assertive, and then start acting your way into right thinking, really. Okay.
Wow, that was awesome. And we'll take, if you don't mind, one more question, because this is one that came in earlier and
Sure.
much earlier, and somehow I missed it. But
let's do it.
Yeah, thank you. And it's from Ruby Singh to me, who I was mentioned earlier, I think has a major connection with you right now. And she's asking, does her dad or sister want to come through right now? And this is Ruby Singh, the number 2, me. It's all one connected.
Okay. So like I said for Shelley earlier, I don't want to take 2 at a time, but it's kind of confusing me because they come at the same time. So I almost have the feeling that they passed at the same time. Or within a relatively short period of time. And so I wonder if Ruby could validate that first. I do feel a sense of like, almost like, I guess what it feels like is like the dreams where you're like, whoa, I got really too high, right? And so I feel like there's this out-of-body experience quickly. I don't think that there was a lot of suffering at the time of death or anything like that, but it's just this like I'm here and then I'm not, and I'm floating in that type of experience. And so would it be true that they died within a short period of time with each other?
I'm not seeing anything from Ruby Sing to me at the moment, but I will let you know if you want to keep going or if you just want to talk about something else for a minute, whatever you want.
Yeah, I want to get validation before I just go.
Oh, here we go. No, Dad and Ruby Sing to me says no, Dad in 1994 and sister in 2012.
Okay, would either one of them have? Which one had a very quick passing that was totally unexpected? Totally, and that's who I want to work with.
Okay. Let's see. We know she's still online, so let's see what she says about who went unexpectedly. We will see. And in the meantime, I hope everybody's enjoying my cat Vesta.
What a great cat name.
Well, she's the name of my main character in my urban fantasy series.
Yes.
Okay, so Ruby says it was her sister who passed suddenly.
Okay, let's do that. So let's see if Ruby's sister, just the message that she might have. The first vision that I get is of a swing, like I would sit on a childhood swing in my grandma's garden. So I'm just seeing this swing, but it's also like I'm getting the feeling, it's not quite nauseated, but like I'm not all there. Like I don't know if there was a medication situation or if there was like I'm just not mentally able to respond to what's going on. So it feels very out of body before even the passing occurs. And it feels like, it feels like there's just no time to get the help that she needed. And it feels like she's, there's a message about being somewhere that maybe she wasn't supposed to be or wasn't expected to be. And there's a grief going on where it's like, well, if we had just known that, then we could have done this. And she wants to relieve you of that. And so I just want to make sure that we're connected in with the right energy.
She's saying that it happened during some major surgery.
Oh, wow. Okay. Because I saw like the hospital and then I'm like, well, she died unexpectedly, so that can't be it. So this is a good demonstration of how not to second guess yourself. And, my heart goes out to you, Ruby, because I do get that medicated feeling. I had surgery earlier this summer and that's how it was making me feel, like I'm about to just be under and it's like, whoa, what happened? And so that feeling of like, well, if I was just here instead of here, I don't know if there was a discussion of doing this at a different hospital or a different day or a different doctor, but there's something that has been chewing and like rotating over and over. And she just says, please forgive that, because this is my destiny and it's okay. I'm okay where I am. And she wants to bring up timing is everything. And it's not in a negative way, but it's a message for you. And so I hope you can take that and work with that as your validation.
Yeah. And well, you absolutely nailed it with the medication feeling that you got right away. So Ruby says she was on the surgical table under anesthesia. So you absolutely got that. Do you have anything else that's coming through for her? Or I know this has to be exhausting. Just reading tarot for me gets exhausting after a while. So I don't want to put you through. I think we're ready.
We're about ready to wrap up. Yeah, I get very hot, so I'm sweating, and I have my water, and I have feet in water, and there's this whole conductivity going on. And when you are doing psychic work, you have to take care of yourself differently, right? Like you need to make sure to get your trace minerals, you need to make sure you get your magnesium at night, of course checking in with your own blood levels and your own nutrition situation. But I think it's a good thing to bring up because it does get tiring. You can't just be on all the time, and after we get done, it is it does drain me. It excites me because I'm like, no way. This woman named Esther has a ex-husband that passed of a Harley that has an apology that she wouldn't have believed in person, but would believe in spirit. What? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, we got so many good little nuggets today. And so there's part of me that is like, anything you want. You know what I mean?
I know, but I know you need to take a break. And can we do this again?
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to do it again. I would love to see you guys at Psychic Catalyst. I would love to help you understand your own psychic abilities and really strengthen that muscle. I think it's very important. There's a calling for that right now. There's a reawakening to it. And if you are feeling that little nudge, just start to listen and start to connect, like stick with the winners, you know, connect with systems and teachers that are really in high ethics and high ethical standards, and you'll be fine, you know.
You did, absolutely. And we're going to put links in the comments on this, on this episode, so that everybody can connect with you and sign up. And I will seriously be there for the Psychic Catalyst. I can't wait. And thank you, Tiffany, for doing this, for taking this time and for tuning in and helping everybody connect and sharing ways that we can all connect.
Yeah, you are so welcome. The demonstration of life everlasting, it always wows me. I mean, it just brings tears and goosebumps. And I hope that you guys are able to see that this beautiful intelligence is right there with you. And so this doesn't happen overnight. It's something that you develop over time. And I just encourage you that if you're psychic curious, to stick with it, you know?
Yeah. Okay, you guys, until next time. And thanks, and everybody have a wonderful day. Okay. All right, I think that we are off the air. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Let's see. Yeah, we're off of